Hi, it's Michael Lennox. Today we're going to talk about steroids, and more specifically, what happens when you take them. Angle grinders are one of those tools for metal workers that are essential. You really can't get far without one. That said, angle grinders are one of the most dangerous tools in the shop, besides me. But understanding these awesome tools will get you a lot further in the metal world. So that's why we are talking about the larger size of angle grinders, more specifically 7 to 10 inches. The most common angle grinder you'll see on the market is the 4.5 inch grinder or 125 millimeters. These are typically the starting point for most hobbyists or homeowners. A step up from that would be the 5 inch angle grinder or 125 millimeters. These have several advantages over the 4.5 inch version, but I'll talk about those in another video. What I want to focus on today are the larger size of angle grinder that you'll commonly see, which is typically 7 or 9 inches. I've always been attracted to the testosterone feel of these bigger angle grinders, and I don't really think they're taken advantage of enough. There's 4 clear advantages to these larger size of grinders over the smaller ones. The first and hopefully most obvious benefit of the larger angle grinders are cut capacity. Here I have my 5 inch angle grinder. That's not my smallest one. Here it is. And let's measure its cutting capacity. Keep in mind the cutting capacity is not half the diameter of the blade. It's limited by the structure of the grinder. We can see here that we only have about 4 centimeters of cutting capacity with this, which isn't much. Here is my 4.5 inch grinder, and we can see we have about 2.5 centimeters of cutting capacity, being generous. Here we have my 10 inch angle grinder with a 9 inch disc on it that's been partially used, and let's measure the cutting capacity. It's about 6 centimeters. That's obviously much more than both of those smaller angle grinders. I have a bit of wood in my vise instead of steel because I don't have any steel of the right size. But if I were to cut this piece of steel with a 4.5 inch angle grinder, you see I can't even cut halfway through. With these grinders, you need to cut on all 4 sides to even have a chance of cutting all the way through. The 5 inch grinder fares a little bit better as we can cut more than halfway through. That means it would be possible to cut through this size of steel with a 5 inch angle grinder. But you can clearly see with the 10 inch angle grinder that in one cut we can completely consume this piece of wood, aka a piece of steel. You might be thinking, hey Michael, I'm not going to cut anything large, so I don't need a larger angle grinder. Well, it's not really about the standard cut capacity of the discs. It's about what they'll end up as once you cut something. Cutting discs shrink rapidly because they're consumable. Meaning, you'll end up with these tiny discs that you can't do anything with. Your angle grinder might be able to tackle what you need it to with fresh discs, but if your discs are even a third used, you won't be able to get very far. This point really doesn't need a lot of explaining, but larger angle grinders typically have a lot more power. This comes exceptionally in handy when you need to grind some serious beads, or if you've plasma cut a couple hundred parts. If you're trying to bevel thick steel with a small angle grinder, you might as well just slit your wrist, man. You're gonna need one of these. Third reason is the life of your cutting or grinding discs. Larger discs will last a lot longer. This is pretty self-explanatory. And because of some complicated mathematics, the larger discs can be a lot cheaper than the smaller ones. If you're trying to get a job finished, or you're a professional worker who absolutely needs to get the job done, switching blades or having to buy them constantly is a real hassle and can take up a lot of time, costing you a lot of money. Switching blades less often will save you quite a bit during your career. The fourth, and probably the most important, badass factor. If you really want to show everyone on the worksite that you're a boss, pick one of these up. You'll have no questions asked. Onto the fifth point, which I just thought of. A larger angle grinder has a lower pitch, which means it's more comfortable. I believe you should always wear hearing protection if you can. But for other people in residential buildings around your house or around your worksite, it's going to be a lot more comfortable for them to hear. The high-pitched squeal of a smaller angle grinder is a lot more annoying. Now, before I go, I just want to exercise some caution with the larger angle grinders. These can be extremely dangerous tools, and I've heard of people losing their hands, arms, and fingers using these tools, so be very careful handling them. Angle grinders are already a pretty dangerous tool. because of the sheer power, not to mention the discs exploding. So always wear your PPE when handling an angle grinder, and please know what you're doing and be careful. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Mikkel out.